will say this about Kyrie. I am the biggest Kyrie Irving fan. I obviously went to school at Duke. I think he's the best point guard to come out of Duke. I think his game is transcendent. It's different. I sat up on broadcast last year and said that I picked the Boston Celtics to win the whole thing and beat Golden State. This year has been an atrocity for Kyrie.
Yeah, and the visual is stunning. I hope they document what I'm becoming. Congratulations.
People's Kid, how we doing? It's your boy Kobe back yet again with another video, and as always, hope you guys are having a blessed day. As the NBA playoffs continue to march towards the finals, we are undoubtedly learning more and more about each team and each player. While some players have risen to the occasion, others have fallen and have had their reputations marred by some inexplicable performances. In particular, the Boston Celtics' Kyrie Irving had a train wreck of a playoff series against the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's now left wondering what move he should make next as it relates to his basketball career. In this video, I'm going to highlight exactly the troubles Irving faced this season both on and off the court, and why he will need to leave the Celtics if he really wants to recapture what made him so great to begin with. Per usual, if you guys enjoy the vid, please make sure to like and subscribe, and with that said, let's jump right into it. Less than 2 years ago, on August 22nd, 2017, one of the biggest trades in NBA history occurred when the Cleveland Cavaliers shipped away one of the franchise's best player of all time, Kyrie Irving, shortly after Irving demanded to be traded. Although it initially came as a shock to fans and media personalities alike due to the rapid success the Cavs had the previous 3 years, it quickly made sense to many that Kyrie had a desire to lead his own team and got tired of playing second fiddle to LeBron James, the league's poster boy. Fortunately for Irving, despite Cleveland's ability to trade him anywhere they wanted, including some of the NBA's biggest bottom feeders, no offense to Phoenix, the Cavs gave Kyrie the ultimate gift of trading him to the Boston Celtics, a team that had won 53 games the previous year. Not only this, because of the maneuvering of Celtics GM Danny Ainge, Boston carried a perfect combination of a youthful roster with a great deal of draft picks and cap space for years to come. So as the unquestioned lead dog and with one of the best coaches in the league, Kyrie and the Celtics flourished above expectations for most of the year, finishing the regular season 55-27. But due to a nagging injury that caused Kyrie problems from time to time, the Celtics played it safe and shut him down, fully expecting this decision to cost them any realistic chance to fight for a title. Ironically enough, after getting past the Bucks without Kyrie in a hard-fought first-round series, Boston next surprisingly knocked off the 76ers in 5 games by playing excellent team basketball and also simply having Brad Stevens outcoach the crap out of Brett Brown. And truthfully, in the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals, what started off as an amusing storyline quickly became real as the Celtics were literally 1 quarter away from reaching the NBA Finals and defeating LeBron's Cleveland Cavaliers. Through it all, the young guns like Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown showed their potential to become future All-Stars and helped take the burden off of Irving the following year. Because with the return of a healthy Kyrie, there is no way the Celtics could be worse than they were without him, right?
That is not correct.
Well, think again. Somehow, someway, despite having a healthy Celtics roster with one of the deepest benches in the NBA, Boston really struggled to find an identity for most of the season, constantly losing focus over the course of 82 games. While they managed to finish with 49 wins, something just felt off all year, and this culminated with an embarrassing defeat at the hands of Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. For Irving's part, the fans and media will gasp at his brutal shooting performances, but there is much more to be said regarding the subtle aspects of his failures that I think proves why he most definitely needs to leave Boston in the offseason. Without further ado, here are my 5 reasons as to why. Number 5. He is not a number 1 on a championship contending team. When discussing the true superstars in the NBA, there is nothing more important in determining how good they are than the level of impact they have on their team winning. Although putting up big numbers help bolster the resume and positively improve the perception of a player's status among his peers, this alone cannot substitute for the respect garnered for leading your team on the short list of squads that have a chance to win the NBA title. While for some reason people still love to chat over Anthony Davis as an NBA superstar despite any real success quite yet, knowledgeable basketball fans know he deserves to be ranked nowhere near the top 5 for how lousy the Pelicans played this year. With respect to Kyrie, however, the debate on his value as number 1 on a championship team was an incredibly fair one to discuss, as he played for a Boston Celtics squad that many thought certainly had the potential to reach the NBA Finals this year. Yet, because he had the infrastructure already in place, especially when you look at how deep the roster was, as well as having one of the greatest NBA minds in Brad Stevens, it was a bit more difficult to assess how much Irving contributed to their success as opposed to, say, a guy like LeBron James or Giannis, where the team's performance is literally dictated by their presence. As a result, this year proved to be the ultimate test on where Kyrie's place in NBA history would land. Was he just an elite number 2 type of player who could give spectacular Robin performances, similar to that of 2016 against Golden State? Or did he have a higher pinnacle to his greatness in being the unquestioned superstar for a title team? For reference, this was the exact same test Kobe Bryant passed when he finally got his 4th ring in 2009 without the help of Shaquille O'Neal. But unfortunately for Kyrie, although only still at the ripe age of 27, the short but telling performance against Milwaukee Bucks told us everything we needed to know about the legitimacy of his chops as a number 1. In conjunction with shooting a putrid 30% from the field throughout the series, Irving pretty much gave a flat and uninspiring effort between games 2 through 5 that even Celtics fans couldn't help but boo. Truthfully, the biggest issue with Irving's game as it relates to being the number 1 option is that he is so dependent on his transcendent scoring ability to really bring an elite impact to the table. When he's having an off-game shooting or isn't putting up points in spurts, he really is just a replacement level player that doesn't do enough in other aspects to warrant MVP consideration. In addition, being listed at 6'3", and by the way, he looks like the tiniest 6'3" I've ever seen, with limitations on defense versatility because of his size, it is a very tall task for a player of his stature to be the best player on a title team. Yes, this is much more anecdotal evidence than cold hard facts, but it is very rare for a point guard to have the same type of impact as superstar players 6'5" and taller. Again, there are definitely exceptions, but for the most part, Irving and other top point guards in the league are much more suited for the number 2 spot. As a result, despite wanting to prove others wrong, Kyrie is best served to accept this role as it still sets him up as one of the best players in NBA history. Just ask Scottie Pippen, but not his ex-wife. Number 4. He is asked to play a role that is not congruent with his killer mentality. Whether you love him or hate him, the one thing you cannot take away from Kyrie Irving is that he's one of the best one-on-one scorers in NBA history. Because of his natural feel and creativity in finding opportunities to score for the game we all love, it is not a surprise he's one of the more marketable and popular stars in the NBA. Yet, because of his elite excellence in scoring the rock, the biggest criticisms of Kyrie have nothing to do with his own abilities to put the ball in the basket, but rather his ability to help others on his team do the same. Labeled as a score-first, even selfish type of player at times throughout his career, Irving's game at his peak never materialized towards a more traditional point guard like Chris Paul or John Wall. But because of how much better of a scorer he was, people who understood Irving's value in playing his score-first style realized it didn't matter if he wasn't a natural point guard, as long as he was the best fourth-quarter killer in the entire league. Well, in an interesting twist, slotted to play the traditional 1 for most of the season, Kyrie made some strides this year as the Celtics' main distributor, averaging a career-high 6.9 assists and 21 double-doubles on the year. But despite his improvement in facilitating, I have to contend that this definitely came at a cost, because while it may confuse you on why this turned out to be a negative development, there is something that just felt off about his game towards the end of the season. Again, apologies for providing anecdotal evidence, but I feel like his significant deference in setting up teammates this year, when he would look to score in those same moments in years past, really messed up with his feel of when to correctly pick his spots in the Milwaukee series. While some may simply chalk up Irving's struggles against the Bucks as bad shooting, I would contend this was primarily a result of just not getting into the normal scoring rhythm we came to expect, primarily because he was asked to also be the floor general, leading him to strongly force the issue at the wrong times. As unselfish as it is to see Irving pass up a mid-range shot that in his prime is pretty much a layup for an Al Horford three-pointer at the top of the key, I have no doubt this type of action is what subtly hurt his killer mentality and ability to get in an offensive groove like so few can. Newsflash people, Kyrie Irving is not and never will be Chris Paul or Steve Nash. He is Kyrie Irving, a man placed on this earth to get buckets. So for everyone trying to make fetch happen,
stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Number 3, he proves to have zero chemistry with the other top scorers on his team. Ah yes, it wouldn't be right to touch on the failures of Irving this year without touching on one of the more disappointing players in the NBA, Jason Tatum. After an impressive 2018 postseason that made the Lakers and Sixers front offices double up their dosage on Prozac, Tatum failed to make any significant improvements in year 2, and some could even say he took a step backwards. While I am not going to play the blame game and say Irving is fully responsible for the lack of fluidity in their on-court relationship, I will say it is an obvious reason for him to get out of town and start a new chapter somewhere else. Because as Tatum is someone who also thrives in ISO scoring situations with the ball in his hands, it was interesting and honestly kind of awkward to see how the Celtics would initially handle the end of the game situations with both him and Irving on the floor. And broadening out this discussion to dissect other moments throughout the game, the my turn, your turn style of basketball with two players that don't have the chemistry to really execute this style of play is pretty much an easy way for defenses to guard the other when they know the ball isn't coming to them. As a result, this led to some incredibly inconsistent play from Tatum, as he was relegated most nights to find his offense in the spare moments Irving was out or not involved in a particular play. Despite the occasional game here and there where both players seemed to mesh, I think it is definitely in the best interest of Tatum, Kyrie, and the Celtics to recognize this clash in their games and move on from each other. Because of Irving's impending free agency decision, I think the choice is clear on who this should be. Number 2, his leadership on and off the court ranged from nonsense to non-existent. For a player that has had the opportunity to be mentored under some of the greatest players in league history, Kyrie's rapid increase of gray hairs prove he's very wise beyond his years thanks to his early championship success at such a young age. But for somebody that is still incredibly young in his NBA career, it became nauseating to see Irving take on the role of this elder figure in the locker room throughout his time with the Celtics. Although I recognize Irving comes from a place of authority on what it takes to win a title, as he completed the task at 24, the way he would come off to the media about his Celtic teammates' limitations was very disappointing. Because yeah, sure, while it's okay once in a while to come from a place of knowledge, the whole act of acting like you're 36 when you're 26 can definitely rub people the wrong way. Not to belabor the point, but constantly referring to other Celtic players as young men, along with other word salad platitudes when you're still practically a kid yourself, is just one of the many examples of Irving's failed leadership for most of the season. And in the postseason, this went from silly to downright awful, as he literally stopped to care about what he said to the media, as well as walking off the court in Game 4 before the game was over. As much as I love Kyrie, and is still one of my favorite players, I think this year showed despite his claim of veteran status, there is still definitely a bit of maturing to do. Number 1, he has clearly lost a bit of passion for the game, and a new change could be exactly what he needs. For the 99% of us NBA fans that have dreamed of suiting up and playing in the greatest professional sports league in the world, the idea of not enjoying your craft each and every day would not even register in our brain. But for those that have reached the mountaintop and have gotten used to the fairy tale world they live in, it shouldn't be a surprise to see some players get a bit disillusioned from time to time. Because as the NBA has put an increased spotlight on mental health awareness, it is important to recognize that these NBA players aren't going to be happy or incredibly passionate about something all the time, and that's okay. They're human. Not to get too deep on this discussion, but for someone who has followed Kyrie Irving since he was a junior at St. Patrick's High School, I can confidently say he is having less fun playing the game of basketball as a multi-millionaire global NBA star than he did back when he was playing for free at 17 years old. Whether you look at his comments regarding saying he would like to retire in his early to mid 30s, or his hot mic comment of not going to miss any of this when he's gone, right now, basketball is looking more and more like a chore for him, and this will continue to bog him down if not handled properly. Now that he has an opportunity for the first time in his career to be an unrestricted free agent, I really hope Irving will make the decision that will bring him the best combination of financial, professional, and personal success. And in my honest opinion, after all I've already outlined, I don't think this place is to be with the Boston Celtics, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Anyways guys, that's the video, hope you enjoyed. Yeah, Kyrie Irving is one of my favorite players in the NBA, and I just don't think it makes any sense for him to stay with Boston this summer, as there were so many red flags shown this year. What do you guys think? Do you agree Kyrie should leave the Celtics? If so, where do you think he should land? Comment your thoughts below. With that said, hope you guys have a great rest of the day, or night, or whatever time it is. I'll be back at it soon. Peace out.